Hello, how's everyone doing?
We don't really work out what are the other costs of having it. And I'm certainly not saying we should get rid of alcohol, but we need to have some conversations about how we can have a new normal and what it might look like.
And thank you for all that you've done.
Other criticisms, meanwhile, include that government has overstepped with a range of lockdown restrictions. The leader of the opposition, for example, went so far as to say that authorities are treating citizens like children by imposing several irrational rules. He called the ban on tobacco in particular draconian after government initially lifted the ban after 5 weeks, then backtracked a few days later.
People might think I support prohibition. I've been called a prohibitionist on Twitter, but I'm not. I consume alcohol and I don't like people telling me what to do. But many people are living in very crowded, difficult circumstances, and the government can't have different policies for different socioeconomic groups. We have to look at the way drinking occurs. More wealthy people drink generally than poorer, but their burden is higher amongst the poorer sectors of society. When you're limiting people's liberties, I think governments do better when they take the population with them. I think it's very important to share scientific information. We need to do more of that with alcohol particularly, and also with tobacco. We haven't done that, managed that PR process well. Certainly, I think we all thought that the cigarette ban was going to be lifted, and we really just had the population told to go cold turkey without much support. And I think a caring government, it would be good to see showing some empathy for people who are struggling with this, rather than having the image being a law enforcement image. If we catch you, we're going to lock you up and we don't need it.
The legal sale of cigarettes and limited sale of alcohol is only expected when a more relaxed phase of lockdown is implemented. And when that happens is still anyone's guess.
Watching closely, and they understand they have a deal, and hopefully they're going to keep the deal. We'll see. They may not. We're going to find out. We'll know soon.
It's important for us to know that even if the study isn't successful, that we learn from it, because we want to have a vaccine. I also thought it'd be a really interesting experience to see the patient perspective on a clinical trial. At some point in the future, I'm keen to have some of my research progress to a clinical trial. So I wanted to see what that would be like as well. This trial has expanded to many, many people. And so now they're giving daily temperature checks and daily symptom diary that's uploaded every evening, so that the study can know what's happening with all the patients. They are very interested in a scientific analysis of the vaccine. You can actually then follow potentially the immune response, whether or not you have an antibodies that are protective against it. You can do do all the fancy blood work for that. I think a vaccine is the safest way to develop a herd immunity response that we can therefore protect our friends and family and the people in the street.
We're contacted by physicians who alerted us to the importance of being able to use this device potentially to measure coughing and respiratory activity and also temperature from this region of the body.
Take some deep breaths.
We want the FAA to take the CDC guidance and make it mandatory for all airlines across the industry. The virus doesn't care that you're doing really good in one area and very poorly in another. We need a uniform approach so that we can restore the faith of the flying public that it's safe to get back on an airplane.
Sasa ilibidi nichukue watoto nikawe kwa relatives wangu.
This is 7th Street in Melville, Johannesburg, usually one of the city's most popular places to come socialize, dance, drink, and smoke. But for well over a month, not a single beer or packet of cigarettes has been sold here, legally anyway.
Beer was back. Long time between drinks.
The prohibition on alcohol and cigarettes here is part of a raft of restrictions on consumers aimed at curbing the spread of coronavirus. The South African government, in justifying its decision, framed drinking as an impediment to social distancing and also pointed to its links to risky behavior, domestic abuse, accidents, and violent crime.
He's a drunken driving arrest.
With a high incidence of various diseases nationwide, it raised the alarm that millions could be more susceptible to catching the disease if drinking and smoking continue unabated. But above all, government said it needs to free hospital beds, and trauma related to alcohol is known to fill up emergency rooms.
We've certainly shown through our modeling that we're probably saving just under 5,000 trauma beds per week through the banning of liquor sales in South Africa. How many can we fairly confidently say we're saving because of the lockdown measures of alcohol? It's about 15 deaths per day. But if you multiply that by the number of days of the lockdown, over 35 days, the mid-level figure would be 515 lives saved, which is substantially probably double what we're seeing in terms of lives lost so far from COVID-19.
But this is little consolation to people who rely on alcohol and tobacco sales to earn a living.
That's a really problem for those on which are surviving through the alcohol, through selling alcohol. It's a pity for them, but at the same time, alcohol, you know, that is a problem in our country.
People are drinking a lot, so if you guys are opening the alcohol back, so a lot of families struggle for food and stuff like that.
A flatlining economy has also prompted criticism the ban is robbing the fiscus of much-needed tax revenue, right as authorities have ramped up emergency social spending. Combined excise duties on beer, wine, spirits, and cigarettes in April amounted to about $90 million. Overall, that's a very small part of the budget, but tax earnings are way down, and the collector needs every cent that they can get. To make matters worse, the tax commissioner warned the ban may also be helping illegal trade fill the supply gap.
Okay, we're losing something in excise taxes, but what are we gaining on the other side? we find that there'd be a savings of about 900 million just in trauma savings alone. Well, from a syntax point of view, it's generally well known, not only from research in South Africa, but other countries, that the costs to a society broadly, the health and social costs, are roughly double what we get in excise tax and value-added tax. We think of the short-term taxes that are coming into the fiscus, we don't really work out what are the other costs of having it. And I'm certainly not saying we should get rid of alcohol, but we need to have some conversations about how we can have a new normal and what it might look like.
And thank you for all that you've done.
Other criticisms, meanwhile, include that government has overstepped with a range of lockdown restrictions. The leader of the opposition, for example, went so far as to say that authorities are treating citizens like children by imposing several irrational rules. He called the ban on tobacco in particular draconian after government initially lifted the ban after 5 weeks, then backtracked a few days later.
People might think I support prohibition. I've been called a prohibitionist on Twitter, but I'm not. I consume alcohol and I don't like people telling me what to do. But many people are living in very crowded, difficult circumstances, and the government can't have different policies for different socioeconomic groups. We have to look at the way drinking occurs. More wealthy people drink generally than poorer, but their burden is higher amongst the poorer sectors of society. When you're limiting people's liberties, I think governments do better when they take the population with them. I think it's very important to share scientific information. We need to do more of that with alcohol particularly, and also with tobacco. We haven't done that, managed that PR process well. Certainly, I think we all thought that the cigarette ban was going to be lifted, and we really just had the population told to go cold turkey without much support. And I think a caring government, it would be good to see showing some empathy for people who are struggling with this, rather than having the image being a law enforcement image. If we catch you, we're going to lock you up, and we don't need it.
The legal sale of cigarettes and limited sale of alcohol is only expected when a more relaxed phase of lockdown is implemented. And when that happens is still anyone's guess.
Watching closely, and they understand they have a deal, and hopefully they're going to keep the deal. We'll see. They may not. We're going to find out. We'll know soon.
It's important for us to know that even if the study isn't successful, that we learn from it, because we want to have a vaccine. I also thought it'd be a really interesting experience to see the patient perspective on a clinical trial. At some point in the future, I'm keen to have some of my research progress to a clinical trial. So I wanted to see what that would be like as well. This trial has expanded to many, many people. And so now they're giving daily temperature checks and daily symptom diary that's uploaded every evening, so that the study can know what's happening with all the patients. They are very interested in a scientific analysis of the vaccine. You can actually then follow potentially the immune response, whether or not you have antibodies that are protective against it. And they can do all the fancy blood work for that. I think a vaccine is the safest way to develop a herd immunity response that we can therefore protect our friends and family and the people in the street.
We're contacted by physicians physicians who alerted us to the importance of being able to use this device potentially to measure coughing and respiratory activity, and also temperature from this region of the body.
Take some deep breaths.
We want the FAA to take the CDC guidance and make it mandatory for all airlines across the industry. The virus doesn't care that you're doing really good in one area and very poorly in another. We need a uniform approach so that we can restore the faith of the flying public that it's safe to get back on an airplane.
Sasa ilibidi nichukue watoto nikawe kwa relatives wangu.
Lit Mobile just sent me this wireless solar power bank. Let's see what's inside. Power bank has 20,000 milliamps.
All right, guys. So you guys really liked whenever I left the 5 things in rock tumblers. So we're going to do another rock tumbler video, except this time instead of 5 rock tumblers, I have 1 big rock tumbler. Now the other tumblers, I believe I think each barrel could hold 2 pounds. This is just going to be 1 barrel, and this barrel can hold, I think, 15 pounds. What are we going to leave inside of this rock tumbler? We are going to be leaving cell phones inside of this rock tumbler. So let's get this thing opened. This one's way more heavy duty than the other ones. The other ones just had basically 1 nut in the middle, and then that was pretty much the one that kept them on. As you can see, obviously has wing nuts. And it's all steel, and it has a thick rubber seal. So this one's going to be way heavier duty. All right, so with this one, you can see really, really thick metal lid. And it has this nice piece of rubber to keep it all water sealed. And then on the inside of it, it has this really nice thick, just like a casing on the inside. So I'm sure we can probably get a ton of uses out of this one. So for our cell phones that we'll be leaving inside of this rock tumbler, our first one is going to be a U shining, that's all it says, U181. U shining U181. Oh, I think, yeah, that's it. There's our phone. Oh, look at this. I think this phone is only like $15 or something off Amazon. It comes with SD card slots and a charger and headphones. Yeah, comes with a battery in it. Oh, I guess it doesn't have juice. So that's our first one. Our second one is going to be a Nokia 106. Pretty much pretty much like the Nokia version of this phone. Here's our phone. Let's see, has it got a battery in it? Nope. All you get with this one is a charger. So all we need is a phone. Get out of here. See if this one has any juice. Ooh. Gives you a nice little chime. No SIM card, 5:55 a.m. It is not 5:55 a.m. Ooh, we only got 1 bar of battery. All right, I'm gonna switch this off. That's our Nokia 106. Next up, we have a Duraforce by Kyocera. Whatever that is. This one's actually quite a bit bigger than the rest of these. Yeah, so it's actually pretty good size. Put it in there. On to our next phone. It is going to be it's a Tracfone. I don't even know what kind of phone it is. Okay. Charger. Need that. Oh, I need that. All right, we got the back, we got the phone. Where's the battery? There's the battery. Let's get this battery in here. All right, let's do the peel. Ooh, wow. The numbers on this thing are huge. This is reminds me of like some nursing home phone. I think it's got juice. This thing has all kinds of stickers on it. This reminds me of like a 2008 phone. Whoa. All right, and it goes. And these next two phones are very special because these are two phones that I know every single one of you know, and more than likely every single one of you have had at one point. This next one is particularly important for this extreme durability test, I guess, because this phone is pretty much known for being indestructible or very, very close to it. A Razr phone. I'm sure most of you guys probably had these. I know I had one. The one that I had was black. I think I had to give like $40 for this on eBay. I knew I wanted to do one of these phones because I knew that these were like a staple of durability back in the day. You could do anything with these and they would never break. So that's going to be one of them. Then the next one, not so much known for durability, but pretty iconic, and I'm sure everybody's had one, an iPhone 4. This is a black iPhone 4, obviously, but it has no, I don't even know how well you can see that, but there's basically no scratches, there's no cracks, it's in perfect condition, and it's charged, battery works, everything. So I'm really interested to see how far this is going to, I'm really interested to see what this is going to do after 30 days of being tumbled inside of this rock tumbler. So, and it goes. And then the next three things are not phones, but just something to add a little razzle dazzle to the whole rock tumbler. I have three, I guess, memory devices. I have an SD card. I have a USB thumb drive, and I have a 160 terabyte. I mean, not terabyte, 160 gigabyte hard drive. And I've put one of my older videos, I've just loaded it onto all three of those. And I'm gonna be really curious to see if after 30 days of being tumbled, if we can play the videos that are on them. So that'll be interesting. That's all we have to put inside the rock tumbler. So let's get this thing closed off. Get it all sealed up. There we go. Make sure none of the cell phones escape. Get our base here. So before I plug this in, I want you to write a comment. What do you think is going to happen after 30 days of being tumbled inside to these phones after being tumbled in this tumbler for 30 days. I don't know what's going to happen, obviously. What I want to happen is after 30 days, I want to open this rock tumbler and it just be nothing but parts. Like, I just want all the phones and everything to just be just shredded and just dump out a whole bunch of phone parts. I think that'd be really cool. So let's plug this thing in. All right, so I'll see you in 30 days. All right, it is time to open this thing up and see what has happened to these phones. I know I said it was going to be 30 days. It's actually been about 6 weeks or so. I kind of had other stuff going on, lost track of time, so just let them go some extra time. I'm curious to see if, like I wanted to happen, if everything's just kind of falling apart or not. Kind of doubt it, but I still think that'd be kind of cool. Take the lid off of here. First thing I notice is there's a lot of traces of rubber, I'm assuming, or maybe it's the plastic from all the phones. Let's go ahead and dump these all out. Really? All right, that's everything out of the tumbler. Start looking through, see what we got here. Let's go ahead and look at the razor first. You can see the screen or not the screen, but the camera is cracked. It's definitely dirty, although it doesn't look like a whole lot happened to it. Maybe it's a little more limber than what it was before, maybe. See if it'll turn on. Come on, turn on. Oh, come on. Now the battery could be dead, or maybe it wasn't connected. Don't think we're gonna have much luck here. Nah, either it's damaged or the battery's dead. However, I will try to, these phones didn't come with a charger, but I will try to see if I have a cord or something that will work, because these older razors have this weird, it's a mini USB, but it's not. There's two different types of mini USB, and whatever the most common one is, this is the other one. So I think it's like a mini USB A, maybe, or maybe a B or whatever. I will try to find a charger and see if we can get this thing to turn on. But other than the camera being cracked, it doesn't look like it has a whole lot of damage. It's just kind of got some wear spots and it's dirty. That's really it. Oh, I don't know if it had that much play whenever I first put it in there. But overall, it's not bad. Second thing, this hard drive, this is the case for the hard drive. You can see there's nothing in here, but the case looks completely, like it's not broken or anything. So how did the hard drive get out of the case? Oh, I wonder if that's how it comes apart. I wonder if, this might be a long shot. I wonder if this case came apart, the hard drive fell out, and then somehow the case went back together. Or maybe just a part of the case kind of lifted up and then the hard drive slid out and it closed itself back. That'd be kind of crazy if that's what happened. But either way, there's no way this hard drive works, which was the whole point, to see if the hard drive would still work after being tumbled. So, but there's absolutely no way. Even I think this, that is that's the chip for the SD card. So there's no way that's gonna work. So that's definitely broken. The hard drive, definitely broken. I was trying to find, I think this might be the piece. I think this is the piece for the hard drive, probably on this end, that you'd plug it into to get everything off of it. So that's completely toast. And if you look at it, I don't know if you can see it, but whenever I look at it in person, I can see that it's like divoted in, probably where stuff was hit it so much. But that's broken for sure. This one, this U shining thing, looks like there's I wonder if that is a protective coating that's supposed to be there, or if that's like part of the screen. I don't remember if I peeled the plastic off of it or not. This thing really doesn't seem like a whole lot happened to it. I don't know if I left the battery in here or not. Yeah, I did. See if we can get it to turn on. I honestly don't even know which button you use to turn it on because all the buttons are wore off. Let me get a charger. See if it'll turn on. This one should work. All right, let's plug it in. See if it'll. Oh, there it is. It works. Even though it says it's January 1st, 2019, it's in the charging mode, but what button turns it on? I want to see if all the buttons work. Oh, yeah. Oh, not all the buttons work. The 8, the 9 works, 6 works. Oh, 3 works. Oh, I don't think the 2 works. The directional pad works. Huh. So this thing's pretty much. I wonder if I can get to the camera. Oh. I mean, it's really bad. It's just kind of like I don't know how much of it you can see on the camera. It's just kind of like a blur. It all works. So that's impressive. Ooh, here's the thumb drive. I know you guys can't see it, but whenever you look inside of it, like whenever you look inside the little port of the drive where the metal's usually supposed to be that would, connect it to the computer, all that metal's gone. It's just plastic. That definitely is not going to work. I think this one's kind of, looks like the hinges kind of took a lot of damage. If a lot of these turn on, I'm going to be pretty impressed. Maybe it needs a charger too. Come on, get out of here. I don't even know if this one has a removable